All right, Roddy, we're at that time of the summer where we're kind of like transitioning. It's July 2nd. We're transitioning our focus from baseball to football. So let's do that right now. So something that's a great interest to our listeners here in the SEC is, of course, the Clemson Tigers. So first game of the season for LSU, a huge matchup. Defending ACC champs, Cade Klubnik is returning his top three receivers. I kind of want to hear your thoughts, just a breakdown, just a overview of Cade, the offense, and their team in general, just to kind of start introducing our fan base to Clemson.
It's a loaded Clemson team. It's the best Clemson team on paper that Dabo Swinney has had since Trevor Lawrence's last year at Clemson. It is a Clemson team with the most expectations since probably Trevor's sophomore year at Clemson, 2019, which was the year after they won the national championship. So it is an absolutely loaded unit. It starts with Cade Klubnik, who's in his third year as the full-time starter, started some his freshman year as well, won an ACC championship game, as a matter of fact, coming in for DJ Uiagalelei. And his maturity is the amount that he's matured over the course of his career has been incredible, man. He's gotten so much more comfortable in Garrett Riley's system, which this will be his third year in that system. And he got so much better throwing the deep ball and in the quarterback run game last year that I think he's poised for a big-time season. You mentioned the weapons at receiver, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, and then they return a receiver a couple of years ago was their leading receiver when Antonio Williams was out. So when you look at the receiving core, it's as good, maybe not at the top end as like an Ohio State or an Alabama, but it is as talented as any of those from top to bottom. I saw some projections that had Antonio Williams as the number one receiver in this class, upcoming. Now, I wouldn't quite go there. He's a slot guy, but he is incredible at the point of attack or at the catch point, and he is a really good and smooth, explosive receiver. And then on defense, all they have is the guy who's projected to be the first defensive end off the board in next year's draft, the guy who's projected to be the first defensive tackle off the board in next year's draft, a linebacking core that's got a budding star in Sammy Brown, an NFL corner in Avion Terrell, and a future Avion corner in Ashton Hansen. So it is a loaded team with a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen, third-year offensive coordinator in Garrett Riley. And they really should run through the ACC. We'll see. They got to do it. They've got some holes. Safety, running back would be the two that I would point to. But it's a really talented team. And it'll be fascinating to see how LSU deals with that front with all that LSU is replacing on the offensive line.
And obviously when you have a matchup like this, and I agree with everything you said, I mean, certainly Clemson has some strong points in the front seven, the receiver, and, different positions you can kind of go and you can highlight players. But is it all going to come down to Cade Klubnik versus Garrett Nussmeier? I mean, it really feels like that. I mean, no matter where you look, Roddy, it's like those are 1 and 2. And it's been different orders and different kind of polls and different ratings and different rankings, whatever it might be. But for the most part, when you look, it is Nussmeier and Klubnik in some kind of order there. It just feels like it is going to be which quarterback makes the play and which one has the mistake.
I do think that will be a big part of it, man. Like the one who plays mistake-free football is putting their team in a position to win. I do think LSU has the advantage at the running back position for sure with Caden Durham, who's a budding star. We saw him against Arkansas, which is probably his breakout game last year. And Clemson just doesn't have that at the running back position. They're going to rely on a sort of a committee approach. We'll see if their second leading rusher last year, Jay Haynes, tore his ACL in the championship game, I believe, the conference championship game. So we'll see if he's back, but it's going to be an inexperienced group. The fact that LSU has a Caden Durham to help out Garrett Nussmeier, not that he needs it, but I think it can take some pressure off of that offensive line, who's going to have a time blocking Peter Woods and TJ Parker. So I think that Cade Klubnik is going to have more pressure on him. I think he's going to have to do more with his legs. I think he's going to have to be more of a running threat throughout the season, but certainly in that first game against an LSU defense that should be improved from a year ago.
Yeah, let's take a little bit wider view at the ACC. You said that you thought, Clemson has a lot of expectations. They should kind of run through the ACC. Now over here, we're Hester and I, we're big fans of Georgia Tech and Haynes King. He's a good, hard-nosed East Texas boy.
QB1 on the all-meathead team, Roddy.
Right.
Hey, I love it.
And they play the third week, September 13th. So they match up Clemson, Georgia Tech. I wish that game was kind of pushed more towards the end of the year. But is there anybody in the ACC that you see pushing Clemson and might have a chance to overthrow them?
On the whole of the season, no. The Clemson should be the most talented team by a good margin, unless Miami has things come together. I think talent-wise, you can look at Miami with Carson Beck coming over at the quarterback position and say, okay, I can convince myself that they'll be in the running. They just lose a ton at receiver, and then that defense was not good last year. They have to retool the secondary. So I think that Miami is probably the one from a talent standpoint. Now, look, Georgia Tech, they've been big game hunters since Brent Key has been the head coach there. They have a winning record against ranked teams in ACC play. They obviously played Georgia really close last year, 8 overtimes. Probably should have won that game if the referees knew what targeting was, but that's neither here nor there. But ultimately, like, this is a Georgia Tech team that is going to be dangerous week in and week out. Haynes King is really, really talented and really confident. You got Jamal Haynes at the running back position, who's in his third year as a starter after switching over from receiver. Defense loses Tyler Santucci. They're going to have to create more pressure on the quarterback. We'll see if they're able to do that. Losing Romello Height was a big one. But I think this is a team that is not going to shy away from anybody. So I'm excited about the Jackets this year. Cautiously optimistic. I don't want to hype them up too much and get everybody talking about them and patting them on the back. I want everybody telling them how they're not going to win 6 games this year and have that chip on our shoulder.
Well, they always say, like, a team takes the identity of their head coach. And if that is the case there for Georgia Tech, we know one thing. They're going to be gritty as hell with Brent Key being their head coach. If I interview him, Roddy, I'm like, is he going to try to tackle me here in the next, 5 minutes? Because he has that look to him.
Yeah. Usually he does tackle me before we do any sort of meeting or interview. Like, he'll put me in a headlock and give me a noogie before I try and scoop him up, sweep the leg. But he is a guy who is literally too gritty to be pretty. I mean, he burned he wore a tie the first ACC media day he went to, has not worn a tie since. He says he burned all of them. I don't believe that, but I do believe that he gave them all away. But he is a hard-nosed, demanding players coach, if there's a such thing as all of those things, because he obviously has been in those guys' shoes. He loves Georgia Tech. He was a captain there in the late 90s with Joe Hamilton at quarterback. It means a lot to him, and he's done a great job of assembling an incredible staff. I mean, Buster Faulkner, nobody knew who Buster Faulkner was when they plucked him from being a quality control assistant on the offensive side of the ball from Georgia, of all places. He becomes the offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, and just has done a phenomenal job, especially with that run game, but with the entire offense, making Georgia Tech one of the most difficult offenses to prepare for with everything that they do pre-snap. And then Jeep Wade at the offensive line position has done a really nice job continuing where Brent Key left off. Tyler Santucci was a great hire last year. Now we got one of your boys, Blake Gideon.
That's right.
Comes over from Texas to be the defensive coordinator. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring. But you are right. The Georgia Tech team really embodies what Brent Key is all about. And honestly, it was a necessary change after the Jeff Collins era.
All right, there he is, our guy, Roddy Jones. You'll catch him on ESPN. Also, my colleague over at SiriusXM. He does it all. Roddy, we truly appreciate the time as always, sir, and look forward to, as we get closer, continuing to talk about this Clemson-LSU matchup.